I'm at the Advertising Week Europe conference, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Sir Dave Brailsford. Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure. First
off, we had Seb Coe here this morning talking about the Olympics legacy. What's been the legacy from your point of view as far as cycling is concerned?
Well, obviously we had a great games, but the country had a great games, and I think that the legacy quite clearly has been increased participation. There are more young people getting involved. There are more people involved in cycling than there's ever been before. The membership of British cycling has grown, and it keeps on growing. So I think there's an enthusiasm and an appetite to relive the emotions that were lived, but also to get involved in sport.
And you set out your goals in regards to the Olympics and also Tour de France, and you achieved those goals. Have you found yourself sort of quizzed for advice and to take those what you've learned there into other industries?
Yeah, I think people are curious. I think, and we've been fortunate enough to be fairly successful over the last few years, and people do want to try and understand maybe our approach and compare and contrast with what they're doing, and likewise we want to do the same. So there's quite a healthy dialogue between quite a large community, if you like, within the sporting world and outside the sporting world of people who are keen to learn.
And you've been in conversation today with Sir Martin Sorrell, who asked you for your sort of one tip for a winning team, and you said clarity. I was about to say precision, but that was his tip. Yours was clarity. Tell us about that. How important has that been?
Well, I think when you boil it all down, there's a lot of, people make things very, very complicated and possibly overcomplicated. And I think if there is one word that a team could take on board, for me, it would be clarity, because I think you've got to understand that you've got clarity about the purpose. What are we trying to do? Do you understand the demands of the events? You're trying to really understand the demands of the events that you're trying to win. Have you got an outcome that everybody buys into and everybody's absolutely clear about what it is they're doing? But then on an individual basis, is everybody absolutely clear about their role, their responsibility, about the structure, about the tactics? And if there's a little bit of clarity that isn't right, there's some blurred edges, if you like, then your performance won't be optimal. So I think a lot of people who work in coaching or managing, etc., can go a very, very long way with just checking all the time to see if there is absolute clarity about everything that is being done, and stress testing the strategy, stress testing the tactics, and making sure everybody's clear.
And what about media coverage of your success? Did I read in an interview recently you sort of hinted at a little bit of a backlash maybe, or people sort of casting aspersions over your success?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. people, I think the sport of cycling has been through such a torrid time that when one team starts to perform as well as Team Sky has recently, then people will ask questions, And I think that's only fair, it's only right. I think people are right to question, and I think our job is, in light of that, our job is to try and be as open and transparent as possible about what we do, how we do it, to try and gain, greater insight and trust on behalf of fans and viewing public. And so it's a bit challenging at times, but absolutely it is our issue to deal with in terms of that openness and transparency.
And is that healthy questioning, or have you detected that it's occasionally has it threatened to become something different?
I think so. I think at times, we performed very well at the start of the season, and I think there's an interesting, from my experience over time, there's been a definite shift from the integrity of journalism, if you like, which were bound by some, quite serious codes of conduct and professional approach, to the advent of Twitter, of course. And I think Twitter has changed the dialogue, and to a certain extent, I would even question. I've got no proof or evidence, but I think when you have people on Twitter going after the journalists, why didn't you do this? Why haven't you asked that? Is it actually, the question would be, is Twitter impacting on the editorial stance in some respect? That maybe it wouldn't have done in the past. And I think that's quite an interesting dynamic that's going on at the moment, and one to watch very carefully, I'd say.
So what's being discussed on Twitter permeates through to what journalists ask you, or influences their agenda?
I think so. I think yes, absolutely. And I think when instead of being the people who are asking the questions, if the journalists then are being interrogated on Twitter by other people saying, well, you didn't ask this question, your questions weren't tough enough, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and they're getting hounded on Twitter, that's a very difficult thing to resist and try and monitor for them. So I think it's there's a whole new aspect there of how journalism exists, if you like, in our world at the moment. That didn't happen in the past, and it's like walking down a street, I guess, previously, and everybody having their say as the journalist is walking down. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. Of course, that never happened. So it's an interesting development.
And a question you may not have been asked on Twitter. one for cycling fans, is Froome or Wiggins?
Whoever's going the fastest
Right,
would be my answer to that.
I'm glad to clear that up. Dave Brailsford, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.